Hello and a warm welcome to Agric today on ARSN Television, Mabushi, Abuja, Nigeria. I am Khadija Oluwatoyin Amin. This week we shall be focusing on federal government's efforts to revamp the cotton subsector in partnership with the International Cotton Advisory Committee. The Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, expressed the ministry's readiness to partner with the International Cotton Advisory Committee, Icac, and other stakeholders to revive the country's cotton subsector to boost production, job creation, and export opportunities, amongst others. The minister stated this during a meeting with the Executive Director, Icac, Agric, and other relevant stakeholders at the ministry's conference room in Abuja. Senator Abubakar Kyari revealed that the cotton ecosystem will create over 1.4 million jobs annually, which is in line with the industrialization policy of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He added that the focus will be to develop key components of cotton value chain comprising farming, weaving, dyeing, and linking of cotton, amongst others. The minister expressed optimism that the Icac technical expertise, the cotton subsector will be revived for sustainable economic growth and national development. Let's listen to him.
Since 1939, to long time. So you can see that's a wide array and a huge experiences in terms of cotton production. And I'm sure you must have data of the kind of the change and the dynamics of the cotton industry and the textile industry of Nigeria. I mean, I used to know as a child growing up, coming out of Borno State, driving through Gombe, even Funtua, Zaria area, went to school in Zaria, and during the flowering process, we used to call it like snow. So we were passing all the way through. We used to admire the cotton. However, that seems to exist. And like you rightly pointed out, just across the border from where I come from, in Marwa and Jabon, we always see bales of cotton being imported into Nigeria. And in those days, even now, it has stopped. I think it has maybe found its way elsewhere. So we have seen the collapse, I would say, of that industry. And even recently, I had opportunity to meet the same group that Dr. Kinsley had mentioned, the president of Advert, the president of Arise, Mr. Gagan, when they came and we had a private interaction on their intention on how to revive both the production sector and the processing aspect of it. In fact, later, one of their officers came from Chad, from Jamaica. I can't remember the French conference. And he had gone round, we met with the governor of Gombe State, and he came back to brief on what they have done, and then they will come back with a framework on how to go about reviving the cotton and textile industry in Nigeria. I had close to even His Excellency, the Vice President, and we tried to reach out to Arise to see if we can slip that meeting so that we could explore the potential and revive that huge potential of the cotton and textile industry. So when I saw this and then here you are, I became really excited. But I remember accompanying His Excellency, the Vice President, when he was governor from Borno State, to Egypt, I think sometime in 2011 or 2012, where we visited even the cotton, the authority, the charge of cotton in Egypt, where they had the research and development. And I think even at that time, they have gone really far. And no wonder we have Egyptian cotton as one of the best continents there is in the world. There was one place of events interestingly at that time, that nobody was allowed to go in except him. All the FLO was stopped from going because it's highly classified and it's like Fort Knox, and there's a lot of vaults and everything, you know. So it has always, you know, that's not on my mind, that when can we get to that point. But we have seen the kind of determination, especially under the administration of His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, where he has mandated us to look not beyond food security, but also look at areas where we can enhance livelihood and also uplift our people, employment generation, and inclusivity of youth and women. So this is heartwarming for your visit. And like you said, you are advising, but I think that is more than it's like both mentoring and tutoring and what have you, so that we can get back to the good old days also. But one thing also that comes to mind is I've always wondered why the sudden death of that industry in terms of production. Why did our farmers move away from cotton production to other staples or other crops? There must be a reason, and I think we need to look into those areas and see why were those reasons, so that we can reverse and incentivize them.
Also in his remarks, the Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, stated that the agricultural sector is the biggest employer of labor in Nigeria. He expressed the commitment of the federal government to reviving the cotton and textile subsector.
Details of issues raised, and it's a thing of joy that we are taking a look at this sector again, because honestly, the number of our farmers have suffered in the past. People went into it, and because of productivity issues, so many challenges, a lot of people suffered losses and never recovered. I can say I was also one of those who suffered losses in country farming, you know. And when the minister was saying why our farmers are turning away, I quickly just go to pricing, because most instances you realize that if this year cotton is produced and per ton is maybe 80,000, and farmers were encouraged and they go into it, then by the end of the season you will see that amount of money is no longer attainable. Things will clash. So that hurt a lot of farmers. And coupled with all the issues that you've raised technically, you can understand why the sector actually had a lot of issues. Yes, people have installed capacity of machinery, but coupled with even the operational challenges, the amount of volume of cotton you require to be operational so that you can, it's not even there. And incidentally, Benin Republic, which is our neighbor here, they are very big in cotton. And at a point, if you look at Nigeria, given our large expanse of land mass and areas where cotton is produced, they ought not to even see our brake light, if I'll use that word. But unfortunately, honestly, things have been bad. So it's a welcome development, and coupled with the fact that we are now in a renewed hope agenda period, I think to renew the hope of cotton farmers in Nigeria will be a very, very big and welcome relief. And we all know the entire value chain creates a very large number of jobs. It creates a lot of, the value chain is so huge. The haulage, there's so many things. And I think it should be a very welcome development. So whatever we're talking about, my take is that the potentials are there, But the areas of technicalities that we have to address, I know the ministry is more than willing, this government is more than willing to get back new economic growth from even what we have and even what we don't have. So I will want to assure you that definitely there is room for this collaboration. And we will definitely take a look at it and see what can be done to reactivate. You know, I used to call my friends who were in that area Nakatin every time I see them. Is it the National Cotton something? Nakatin, what do you call it?
National Cotton Association.
So they've, you know, a lot of people were into that sector. So honestly, even when you look at the textile industry, it's a very big employer of labor. So to get it back would be a very, very good intervention.
In his welcome address, the Executive Director, Icac, stated that the organization will support Nigeria's cotton value chain, revamp it by offering expert advice aiming at improving productivity, boost the value chain and investment facilitation. He outlined possible areas of collaboration to include training of farmers, extension service workers, deployment of technologies and innovative solutions, amongst others. Let's hear from him.
What I want to do is talk about like who we are, because our name sometimes is a little confusing. What's the advisory committee advise? And we do advise, but the best way to think of us as we're like United Nations of climate. You know, all three of us are international civil servants drawn from different countries, and our purpose is to help our members succeed, in this case, in the cotton and textile economy, to basically help our country, all our member countries grow. How do we do this? One thing we do is a lot of work on data and in publications, because, you know, as a Ministry of Agriculture, we all know that one of the most important things is to have good data. And so ICAC is a repository of the world's most comprehensive data on cotton production, trade, consumption. Dr. Kranthi does a huge 900-page book at a data portal focusing on all the inputs of production. So if you want to know what yields are in Chad, he can tell you. So that's one thing we do. Data is really the heart of what is the center of all of our work. Another thing we're very involved with is regulation, in particular with regulations being developed in the European Union. Some of those could be quite adverse for cotton and natural fibers. So we're actually working with the EU to try to make the regulations more successful in both helping natural fibers, or at least not hurting them, and also achieving environmental goals. Because we report to the EU as a member, so we want to help them succeed in their environmental goals. Another thing we're doing is we're getting a lot more of investment facilitation. We're talking with an entity in the Persian Gulf about how to bring more investment into value chains. In terms of our skill sets, we actually have three very distinct skill sets. You know, I'm focused on policy and institutional reform. I know everybody hates doing policy because it's really hard. But as we saw from a very successful fertilizer reform in Niger that we did in my last job, if you do it right, you can act, in the case of Niger, they doubled fertilizer consumption because of the successful reform that we did in my last job with the Millennium Challenge Corporation. Kashev is really focused on agriculture technology, things like biochar, entomology, the technical aspects of agriculture production. And also the vision is eventually we want to create a system of payment for carbon, or what we call payment for ecosystem services. Because, and Kashev can talk about the how, but basically there's a way to grow cotton that sequesters a great deal of carbon. And so we could create a future where cotton farmers not just only get paid for cotton, but they could actually get paid for carbon. And it can have a very profound effect on their economics in a positive way. The last element, of course, is Usman brings a great deal of expertise in textiles. In terms of policy, he's done everything from set up a plant to being in charge of Pakistan when they doubled their exports. So we, in some ways, we account for a lot of the value chain. We also have a very good data scientist and economist. And finally, before I close, we also host a series of events. We will be holding our plenary session, which is like our CFS meeting, if you're familiar with FAO. It'll be held in Uzbekistan from the 30th of September to the 3rd of October. That will be followed by the World Cotton Research Conference to be held for another 4 days, also in Uzbekistan. But at the same time, we will also be hosting the first ever World Cotton Day in Africa. Last year, when I was giving a speech in Vienna, I said, why is it always being held in Europe? And so I threw out a suggestion. I said, well, next year we should do it in Africa. Well, the ambassador of Benin was listening, and he decided to work with the C4 countries. So it will be held in Cotonou on October 6th, 7th, and 8th. The official day is the 7th, but there'll be other activities. So we're proud to say that we're working with Benin to make the world's first Cotton Day a reality in Africa.
Nigeria is getting less compared to Garwa and Maro, which are their main cotton growing regions. In Adamawa, Gombe, like last time when we came, we had this opportunity also, in fact, to visit Zamfara and Gombe. Now, my feeling is always the same, that if the agroecological condition is the same, you should be able to harness the yields like any other place which is in the same agroecological zone. Like for instance in Garwa, where they are getting 650 kilograms of lint per hectare, it can go up to 700, 800 in some farms. What is stopping Nigeria to get there? The soils are almost the same kind, they're similar soils. But the thing is, there are some changes which have been happening, and it's sort of part of that change. We have been working there over the past 3-4 years now, also immediately after COVID. The changes are in terms of some varieties. The changes are in also like what we address to the soils for pest management. I think Cameroon is one of those very few countries in the whole of Africa, I would say in the whole of world actually, which is not an exaggeration, that there is a limited number of selected insecticides which are permitted there, and not all those mixtures like many other African countries have. And that is a big victory, because what it does is it manages the ecosystem in a very balanced manner. And that is where we are looking at. So in terms of the constraints, as I see, Your Excellency, one major constraint, I mean, of course, the yields are low here, which are half that of Cameroon, which should be the case. I think Nigeria has everything that can match Cameroon, and you can do it. It is just some minor tweaks, and I'm not exaggerating this to say that to meet the yields of something like Garwa or Marwa, it will not take a lot of efforts. You have experts here. It is just that the global knowledge, and that is where we come from. What we do, I mean, today, I don't do hardcore research. I don't have a lab. But my job from morning to evening is only to track down what is happening across the world, what are the technologies, what are the innovations, what can be applicable to which country. Now, this again is very challenging. I can't bring a technology from anywhere and then say that this could be applicable to Nigeria. No, it has to be adaptable, it has to be workable. We'll be working with farmers, we'll be doing all that. But these technologies we bring from the ICAC to be introduced here. It is possible that even those learnings from Cameroon, I'll be bringing them to Nigeria. But they should make a difference. And I firmly believe, Your Excellency, that a breakthrough is possible. It is just about a political will. It is about what you can do. We can't bring a change. We can only catalyze a change probably. We can only introduce these innovations here. We might be able to say what could be best suited. But you can bring a change, you can bring a breakthrough. It is until about 2010, the cotton sector in Nigeria was really fine, it was looking good, maybe for those 10 years, starting from 2000 to 2010. Suddenly something started changing and the cotton sector looked very wobbly. So when we were visiting, it was looking okay, it was looking fine, the yields were also looking okay like any other country, but things were changing. That has to be reversed. So now, in terms of the varieties, Your Excellency, there are, what is happening in Nigeria is, if I'm looking at the ginning percentage of the fibers, it ranges between 33 to 35, 36. There are hardly any varieties, whether it is Samcot 8 or Samcot 9, Samcot 10, 11, 12, 13. All of them, the highest ginning percentage is 36%. I'm comparing it with Cameroon, where they have a variety, it is called Irma Q302. where the ginning percentage is 44. So what we are looking at here is, between 35 and 44, there is 9% of fiber, which is 9 kilograms of fiber for every 100 kilograms of seed cotton, is the yield. It contributes to the yield there. So even if it is for a country like Ivory Coast, they have this variety. It's called Y331 BNT. Even that has 44% ginning percentage. In Burkina Faso, it is called FK37. It is 41%. This whole belt of West Africa, ginning percentage is very high. Fiber length is very high. It ranges from 29 to 31 mm. Fiber G-Tex goes up to 34. Why is it that in Nigeria, these varieties can still be taken to Nigeria because they're all in the same latitude. They can be brought here. You can test them. These can be easily adaptable. A big change can happen. At the same time, this change must go hand in hand with the soils. If the soil fertility, soil organic matter is low, we will never be able to win a war in agriculture. And today the world is moving towards something called as regenerative agriculture. So from the seed, I'm moving to the soil, Your Excellency, because soil connects all crops. It's not just about cotton. It is true that even in Cameroon, the soil organic matter was less, but it is rapidly changing. And the soil organic matter is also less in Chad. I'm again talking about the same attitude. But then Chad didn't do much. Chad was not willing to experiment much on soil. Cameroon is. So when I'm saying low organic matter, it connects with low carbon content. With low organic matter, the structure is so less because the soils are sandy there. It is arenosols, it is acrisols. I'm sure my scientist colleagues here would understand what I'm saying. But basically, the bulk density is so high that the soil doesn't have moisture retention capacity. So the soils are sandy, water gets washed away, it goes away, there is no moisture holding capacity, nutrients holding capacity. So the first immediate thing that needs to be done is add organic matter to the soil to improve the structure, to improve something which is known as cation exchange capacity, where the soil holds nutrients and gives it to the roots. Now, if we are able to do that quickly, we should be able to make the soils not only suitable for cotton but for all crops. Now, this is the big question, can we do it? In the past 15 years, there are so many exciting innovations which give us the opportunity to increase soil organic carbon. The average soil organic carbon in this belt of the northern Nigeria is somewhere between 0.5 to 0.6, which ranks amongst the lowest in the world. That is because of many factors. But from 0.5, can we take it to 0.1? What does it take? I'm talking about the whole belt. I'm not talking of 1 or 2 hectares. It is so, can we do that? Fortunately, there are innovations today. And that is what is the excitement. So when I'm meeting you, I was actually sort of waiting to meet you. The Honorable Agriculture Minister. For 4 days, they were stealing my show. They were talking of textiles, they were talking of everyone, everything else but agriculture. I was making some points, but then I was looking for someone who can get that and get as excited as I am. So today I'm glad I can go away from Nigeria, having the satisfaction of having spoken, and whether we make a change or not, I don't know, but at least I'm sure we'll be able to trigger it. But in terms of the soils, how long can it take to take from 0.5% to 1%? So we should be adding about 20 tons of soil carbon to 1 hectare. That is the calculation, 20 tons. The rate of 1 hectare of soil, if it is a 30 centimeter deep soil, it is approximately about 4,000 tons. So and your soils contain about 20 tons of organic carbon. Somewhere it is 18 tons, somewhere 24 tons. These are data from FAO. So the maximum is about 34 tons. So that is where it becomes 0.6%. So to add 20 tons of organic carbon to the soil, that improves the structure, it improves the cation exchange capacity. More importantly, some soils are acidic. Adamawa has the highest acidic soils. When we move a bit towards the central regions, it is still acidic. You can have 5 pH, 5.5 pH. I was actually looking at all those soil profiles across. With those soils, it is fine. Some crops can come up, but most crops do not. So for us to take the soil to 6.5 pH, the best thing is this thing called biochar. Today, what is happening is farmers burn their crop residues. Instead of burning, there is this technology called half burning, which is what I have expertise in. So we convert biochar without any equipment. What we do is we train farmers, we train extension workers, we train field officers, everyone to convert any biomass into biochar, and at least about 4 tons of biochar, which could easily contain minimum about 2 tons of carbon per hectare. So it is what we get from the field. Within 1 day, we are converting that into 4 tons of biochar to be put back into the soil. So if I do that continuously for 10 years, these soils will miraculously spring back to life and hold the fertility for a long, long time. And then what we are also doing is there's one more technology, Your Excellency, it is called bokashi. It's a Japanese technology. I'm sure my colleagues would have known what bokashi is. It is the world's fastest composting method. Within 3 weeks, you make a bag of compost which is equivalent to 1 bag of excellent fertilizer, mixed fertilizer. The cost of one mixed fertilizer today in Africa could be about $30, $40, $50, $60. Unfortunately, Africa will never be competitive if you depend on synthetic fertilizers. I'm saying this because 1 bag of synthetic fertilizer in India is $3. Pakistan, it could be $4 to $5. In United States, it is $6. In Russia, it is $5. In Senegal, it is $60. Zambia, it is $55. Here, it could be $30, $40. Why are we depending on synthetic fertilizers? Because within 3 weeks, we will show the technology. I personally come here, I will stand with the farmers, we will show them that within 3 weeks you can make a bag from just waste, farm waste. I'm not talking of anything from outside. Nothing. Farmers will do everything with their natural resources, whether it is pesticides. Even when I say pesticides, it is not that collecting leaves, pounding them, and nothing like that. We work on technologies known as nano technologies, where we make biopesticides using the naturally identified sources, extracting the active ingredient, concentrating them, preparing nanopesticides and selling them in the market for organic purposes.
With this move, it is expected that the federal government's efforts in the agricultural sector will translate to bumper food supply yearnings of Nigerians. And this is the size of our package on Agric Today for this week. Please join us again next week at the same time on the same station, ARSN TV, Mabushi, Abuja, Nigeria. I remain Khadija Oluwatoyin. Saying bye for now.